The world is obsessed with hype, loud logos, and fast trends, but one Japanese brand skipped but still made $20 billion last year. That brand is Uniqlo. It's making waves among millennials and Gen Z. This is quite rare for a brand to be loved by both generations, and what's more shocking is that just a decade ago, this brand was not known to anyone outside of Japan, but now it's everywhere. Worn by students on campus, young professionals at work, and celebrities off duty. Not with designer collaborations, not with influencer drama, not with logo mania, but with what some people called boring basics. Today, we're breaking down how this quiet Japanese brand became one of the biggest fashion companies globally. We'll look at its business strategy, its design, its philosophy, and its cultural impact. Because Uniqlo isn't just selling clothes, it's changing how the world dresses. But first, please do subscribe to the channel. In 1972, a young man named Tadashi Yanai stood at a crossroads. He had just inherited his father's business, a chain of 22 small men's tailoring shops in a quiet city called Ube in Yamagachi Prefecture. These stores were traditional. They sold suits. They followed the old ways, but Tadashi saw something more. He felt a restless energy. He didn't want to sell suits to the same old customers forever. He wanted to change everything. By 1984, he became the company's president. This was his chance to make a bold move. He opened a new store in Hiroshima with a strange, futuristic name, Unique Clothing Warehouse. Later, he would shorten it to something even snappier, Uniqlo. It was a single word that would one day conquer the world, but at the time, it was just a gamble. Yanai didn't invent this vision in the boardroom. He found it on the streets of Europe and America. When he traveled, he saw giants like Benetton and Gap. They weren't fancy tailors, they sold casual clothes for the masses, and they sold them in huge numbers. He studied them and realized Japan didn't have anything like that. He knew this was the key to his dreams. All he had to do was to stop selling suits and start selling casual wear, which is simple, stylish, and affordable. But he also noticed something else. These big Western chains controlled everything. They didn't just sell clothes, they designed them, produced them, and stocked them in their own stores. Vertical integration, that was their secret weapon. Tadashi Yanai decided that he'd do the same. By 1998, his gamble paid off. Uniqlo wasn't just a single store anymore, it was a force. Over 300 stores had opened across Japan. It was fast, it was bold, but it wasn't perfect. Despite its growth, Uniqlo faced a serious problem. People didn't respect the brand. They thought it was cheap in the worst sense of the word. Discount bins, bad quality, something for the suburbs. It wasn't fashionable, it wasn't cool. That perception could have destroyed everything, but in 2004, Uniqlo fought back. They launched something called the Global Quality Declaration. It was a public promise, no more cheap, low-quality clothes. They would make things that lasted, things that you could be proud to wear. And it worked. People began to see Uniqlo differently. They noticed the quality of the fleece jackets. They saw style at a fair price. The brand went from being a bargain bin to best in class. It wasn't just cheap anymore, it was affordable and it was quality. These two things are what Uniqlo's identity was all about, and with that, it went from a small tailoring chain from Ube to now one of the most powerful and popular clothing brands in the world. However, this whole thing didn't happen overnight, although most people chose to believe so. There was no magic switch that turned it from a local Japanese store into a $20 billion global giant. Instead, it was a slow burn, decades of patience, endless trial and error, a refusal to chase easy wins or quick trends. Most fashion worlds thrive on speed. Fast fashion lives and dies by the same formula. Crank out cheap, trendy clothes as quick as possible, shove them in front of consumers, and move on to the next thing before anyone loses interest. It was a game of hype, marketing blitzes, and planned obsolescence. Inside its stores, you'll find shopping carts tagged with RFID systems, not for show, but for efficiency. Behind the scene, Uniqlo's engineers weren't designing the next viral print tee. They were figuring out how to make underwear that literally keeps you warm in the winter. This was not fast fashion, this was fashion as engineering. Take heat tech as the perfect example. Uniqlo didn't buy it off the shelf. They spent years working with Toray Industries, one of Japan's leading material companies, to invent it. At first, it was a modest experiment. In 2003, they sold just 1.5 million units. But they didn't stop. They refined it, marketed it carefully, and by 2012 they were selling 130 million units worldwide. That didn't happen in a single season. That was a reward for sticking to a vision. While other brands rushed to copy runway trends, Uniqlo's R&D labs were tackling real everyday problems. They developed ultralight down jackets that squish into tiny pouches for travel. They engineered quick-dry fabrics perfect for sweaty summer commutes. They even created seamless knitting techniques so sweaters wouldn't itch or bunch up. This philosophy wasn't limited to clothing design. Uniqlo transformed its entire supply chain into a masterpiece of precision and timing. Inspired by Toyota's legendary just-in-time manufacturing system, Uniqlo didn't produce mountains of stock hoping that it would sell. It analyzed weekly sales data from every store around the world to make only what people wanted, exactly when they wanted it. This wasn't a typical fashion supply chain, it was more like a carefully tuned machine. Uniqlo didn't see its suppliers as disposable partners for a single season. It built long-term relationships, like its year-long partnership with Toray, ensuring stable production and better prices for everyone. In 2017, Uniqlo started to take on vertical integration very seriously and built a massive headquarters on top of their Tokyo distribution warehouse. Imagine that, designers, marketers, planners, logistic experts, all working under one roof, able to walk upstairs or downstairs to solve problems in real time. That setup wasn't flashy, it wasn't trendy, but it was brutally effective. Even its expansion strategy proved that Uniqlo doesn't believe in shortcuts. It didn't flood new markets with hundreds of stores overnight. Instead, it planted flagships like embassies in the world's biggest cities. These weren't just stores, they were test labs to study local tastes and refine offerings. Look at its entry into the United States. The first attempt in 2005 was a mess. They picked the wrong locations in sleepy suburbs. They stocked products that didn't fit American tastes. But instead of quitting, Uniqlo took a hard look at itself. It changed its strategy. The locations they chose were 5th Avenue in New York and Union Square in San Francisco, which was a great decision. They learned, they adapted. This cautious approach was slower, but it worked. By 2024, Uniqlo International was hitting record highs, over 1.7 trillion yen in revenue. In North America alone, sales jumped nearly 33% year over year, and they're not stopping. They're planning 200 US stores by 2027. Confident, not because they're rushing, but because they know they laid the groundwork. Uniqlo's journey proves that success isn't about being first, loudest, or the flashiest. It's about doing the work that no one else wants to do, about sweating the details, about staying patient when everyone else is panicking. That's how you build a brand that lasts. That's how you go from a single store in Hiroshima to a global empire worth over $20 billion a year. It's not hype, it's not luck, it's a plan executed slowly, relentlessly, and brilliantly by adapting to new changes. Now, let's talk about the brand's visual identity. Simplicity as a statement. Uniqlo's visual identity is a physical expression of its brand philosophy, pragmatic, accessible, and rooted in everyday life. Unlike many fashion brands that rely on dramatic logos, flashy colors, or seasonal graphics to follow trends, Uniqlo's aesthetic is calm, consistent, and deliberate. Uniqlo has a look that is plain yet warm. The brand does not try to wow you with loud prints or wild cuts. Each piece has clean lines. The hues are soft or pure. You'll see lots of black, white, gray, and blue. These are hues that you can wear all year. This plain style helps you mix and match with ease. You can build your own look. There's no need to chase the new trend each month. Uniqlo says you don't have to change who you are to dress well. You can be you. The best part is that their store matches this idea. When you walk in, the space feels calm. The rows are neat. The signs are clear. You see each shirt or coat for what it is. There's no flash to trick you. You know what you're gonna get. The brand's mark in red and white is sharp and clear. It feels bold but not loud. It shows who they are, strong, fair, real. Uniqlo does not sell a dream that's out of reach. It sells real life. They want you to feel good in what you wear each day. They want clothes that serve you well, not just once, but for years. This way of life is true to their roots. It is calm, it is fair, and it's built to last. However, the road to success was not smooth. Uniqlo did not have it easy as it grew. When it went to new lands, it faced big names like Zara and H&M. These brands were quick, they put out new looks each week, and Uniqlo chose a slow path. It sold plain, strong clothes that are built to last. This was a hard sell in a world that loves new trends. In some lands, folks did not see the charm in plain looks. What felt smart and neat in Japan felt dull in the West. Uniqlo had to learn. They chose to set up big shops in large towns first. They took their time to know what people want. They worked on fit, hues, and styles that spoke to local tastes. Uniqlo also had to face tough talks on how its clothes are made. Folks asked hard things. Who makes these clothes? Are they paid fair? This is good for the earth. Uniqlo knew that it had to change. They chose to be clear. They made plans to cut waste and cause less harm. They worked with their shops and mills to treat folks fair. They did not fix it all at once, but they chose to keep at it. Step by step, they used new tech to make less waste. They shared more on how things are made. They chose to care. The brand also learned how to talk to the world in new ways. They made sure the red and white mark meant the same clear thing everywhere. Simple, true, warm. They told folks their clothes were not just trends, but tools for life. Uniqlo showed us that growth is not fast or loud. It's slow. It takes care. You learn, you change, you stay true to who you are. From one shop in Japan to stores around the world, Uniqlo kept its heart. Clean lines, good price, strong make. It chose to help us live with ease and warmth each day. As trends come and go, Uniqlo stays firm. It gives us clothes that last. It keeps things real. And in a world that moves too fast, that calm and clear way is why we keep going back. If you like this story, give it a like and don't forget to hit subscribe for more stories like this one.